Welcome to the Wild Game Wife Kitchen. My name's Kaylin of Coastal Carolina Living, and today I invite you into my kitchen. Nothing like a nice hot cup of eggnog chai tea on a cold December day. We are currently having quite the storm. We're having a little nor'easter pass through South Carolina here. It's going up the whole coast. It's wreaking havoc, Florida all the way to Massachusetts. But we're getting hit with it today, so we are inside. We're going to be making some homemade tortellinis with some ground venison. We're also going to be including in our mixture some mushrooms and onion and shallot. We're going to start with our tortellini mixture filling. We are using ground venison from one of the deers that Stu shot a couple of weeks back. We're going to be using a mixture of portobello, white mushrooms, a yellow onion, shallot, salt, pepper, an egg, Parmesan cheese. We'll put some nutmeg in there for some seasoning, and it's going to be delicious. So let's go. We're going to start by getting everything chopped up here. We're going to want everything chopped up very finely because tortellinis are rather on the small side. And so we want our filling to be very homogeneous. I don't want big chunks of any one thing because then you will get a whole onion filled or a whole tortellini filled with just onion. Nobody wants that. All right, I've got this diced up really finely, but we're gonna continue to dice it until I've got really just tiny chunks. If you have a food processor, you could use that and make it almost like a paste. All right, we're gonna do the same thing with these mushrooms. We're gonna get them chopped up super fine. And we're going to add them into the bowl with our onions. We're also going to chop up one shallot to add in there. We are grinding some parm to mix with the venison, mushroom, and onion mixture. All right, I've got my cast iron pan here on the stove heating up. I'm going to add a little bit of tallow. I don't want to use too much fat. And then I'm going to slowly add in. This is the onion, shallot, and mushrooms. Now that this is starting to cook down a little bit, we're going to go ahead and we're going to salt it. I was going to add nutmeg, but I didn't have any, so we are going to go a different route, and I added some sage, and we're going to add a bunch of cracked black pepper. All right, now I'm going to add 2 pounds of ground venison to my pan. We want to kind of smush it because we don't want big chunks. We want it to be a very fine mixture. All right, so our meat mixture is done cooking. As it cooked, I just used the back of my spoon to really break it all up so that we have all these really small kind of chunks. We're going to let this cool and then we'll get it mixed up with the rest of our filling. Okay, while the meat mixture is cooling in the fridge, we're going to go ahead and mix up our pasta dough because that has to cool for about 30 minutes before we roll it out. So everybody makes pasta dough a little differently. We're just using eggs and flour. So we're going to do a mixture of all-purpose white flour and semolina. So I've just got 1 cup of each. I'm just going to mix that up a little bit. And bring it into a little circle. Create a little well in the middle. Then we're going to crack our eggs in. We'll just scramble the eggs together. So I've really started to incorporate, I started with 2 cups of flour and 4 eggs. My dough is a little bit wet, so I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of just white flour mixed with semolina on top. Just a little bit at a time, and we'll continue to kind of work it. Until it forms a nice dough. We don't want it to be too tacky. We also don't want it to be too dry. Once it all comes together, you're going to want to knead the dough for about 10 minutes, and you'll see the texture of the dough start to change, and you'll start to get this really kind of shiny, glossy dough that doesn't stick to your hands. Now that our dough has formed into a nice shiny ball, we're going to go ahead and get it wrapped in some plastic wrap and get it in the fridge to rest for 30 minutes. All right, now that our meat mixture has fully cooled, we're going to go ahead and mix it up into our filling. So I'm going to add 2 eggs. We're just going to give them a quick scramble in there. Add a little ricotta cheese. All right. We're going to add in some ricotta. I just have some full fat ricotta cheese here. Not too much because we don't want our mixture to be too wet. And we're going to add in a good bit of shredded Parmesan. All mixed up. Okay, we've got our mixture all mixed up. We're going to go ahead and roll out our pasta dough. All right, so our dough is nice and soft and ready to go. So we've got our pasta roller here. We're just going to cut this into chunks. And I like to kind of form it into a little rectangle shape. Before I start, I'm going to get a little flour. Put a little on the surface here. Flour my dough and start putting it through. We're just going to go down to thickness number 5 because we don't want this pasta to be too thin. So we're going to cut the shells for our tortellinis. You can either do them as circles or squares. So we'll just take our shape. You want just a pea-sized amount of the filling. Kind of right in the center. And fold it in half. You've got a little tortellini. Also do it with your square shape. And if you do your square shape, I'm going to fold it over into a triangle. And there's a bunch of different ways that you can shape them. From what I read online, the way that you shape them is based upon where you are from in Italy. So we're going to go ahead and make up a bunch of tortellinis and we'll cook them up for you. All right, we've got some just beef broth boiling on the stove here. So I'm going to add in some of my tortellinis. I don't want to splash them. I'm going to cook them until they float. Might have to add a little more water to my pot. Give it a gentle stir, and we'll cook these, boil them until they float, and then we'll have ourselves some nice tortellini soup. All right, our tortellinis are floating, so we're going to get them in a bowl. Little cheese on top. Bon appetit. All right, y'all. We have finished making our tortellinis. We made another tray, probably twice the size of this, so we have a whole bunch of frozen tortellinis. What we did was we had cooked some right away, fresh. The rest we just put in a single layer on a cookie sheet, and we froze them individually. That way they won't stick together. And then we'll put them in a big Ziploc bag and we put them in the freezer. And that way we can just pop out, you know, however many we want to cook when we're ready to have some tortellinis. We also got a little bit tired of forming tortellinis. So we used some of the fresh pasta and made a lasagna. So if you guys are interested in seeing our homemade lasagna recipe, let us know in the comments below and we'll make another video about that. I want to thank you guys for tuning into this first episode of The Wild Game Wife. We're hoping to make this a series where I can continue to share my recipes that I've come up with over the years of great ways we use our wild venison, since that's primarily all that we eat is wild game. So if you guys have any of your favorite recipes, I'd love if you would share them down below, or anything you'd like to see me try and make. Go ahead and comment it down below. As always, like, subscribe, and follow for more.